Hello and welcome to the Limitless Landscapers Podcast. I'm Charlotte and today I'm here with John, who is an NLP Master Trainer. And today we're going to be talking about some really great things about mindset, about mental health and kind of business, and a lot more. So stay tuned after the intro.
As the co-founders of the Landscaper Circle, we help you get more money, time and freedom to become limitless through our experiences as fellow landscapers and our tried and tested methods. If you want help with your marketing, managing or growing your business, you've definitely come to the right place. If you're a landscaper, garden designer or supplier to the industry, then hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Now, let's get back to the show.
So, John, do you want to kind of say a little bit about yourself before we go into kind of today's topic?
Hi, Charlotte. Thanks for inviting me onto your podcast.
Of course, it's great. I love having people on because it's something different for our members, I think, as well, because me and Paula know so much, but kind of bringing people on that know different things is great as well.
Yeah, there's such a great wealth of knowledge to share amongst everybody. I find everybody you meet's got something to teach you.
Definitely. Awesome. So basically what we're going to be talking about today is I had a member post in the members group, so our TLC members, say that he had a call on a Friday night at 8:15 in the evening from a customer wanting to talk about their project. I asked him, this is me reading the post, so not myself. I asked him to contact me on Monday and he got very upset. Literally blew my mind. It sent me into the weekend where I didn't want to contact anyone. I sat here this morning contemplating the week ahead and I can't get rid of this negative feeling. Any suggestions on way to flip your mood into a positive one so I can have a good week? Now, the reason I wanted to kind of talk about this is because it's something that I know many people, not just our TLC members that are in the industry, find is that customers seem to think that they can contact them at any day of the week, at any time of the week, regardless whether it's evenings or weekends, and that they should be there ready to go and answer anything that they want. And I think it can get people quite down, but also this mindset thing, because I think, again, it's something that's being talked a lot about in the industry at the minute, but providing kind of a bit more background of information of that.
Yes, and I think there's several things going on there. One is how we communicate with ourselves, because things happen and it's how you respond to that makes the big difference. So we'll have a look at a principle of how the mind processes information, which I think will be useful. And the other thing there was a lack of motivation. So if we look at where true motivation comes from, and then why the internal reaction that happened, I think that might be a good approach to take.
Definitely.
Yeah. So let's take the first one. So there's several things. Whenever we communicate, we've got what we're consciously saying and what we know about. But we also, you probably heard of something called the unconscious or the subconscious. So let's look at the difference between the two and how understanding what's going on at an unconscious level can make all the difference. Okay, so any idea of how many bits of information your unconscious mind processes at any one time?
Blimey. I imagine a very large number that I probably will very highly underestimate.
Yeah, so lots. Yeah, so according to what research you read, it can be anywhere from 3 to 4 million up to 16 million.
That's a lot.
But if we average it all out, and it's not me doing the averaging out, it's Dr. Julian Jayne, he says it's anywhere between 6 million bits of information at any one time your unconscious mind is processing.
That is insane.
Now, that's just a huge number. So let's have a direct experience of what I mean by that, so we get a kind of sense of it. So I invite you to become aware of your feet. Become aware of the clothes against your back. Become aware of the sounds around you. What's your email address? Don't call it out. Now, where was all that information before I asked you?
In my unconscious.
Yes, waiting for your conscious mind to want to know that information. So, do you know the magic number for how many bits of information your conscious mind processes?
No.
Right, so it's 7 plus or minus 2 bits of information on a good day.
Okay.
So that means Friday evening, if you've been out and it's been a particularly good night out, it can be 0 plus or minus 2 bits of information your conscious mind can track.
Yeah, I can agree with that one.
So essentially, according to Dr. Julian Jane, we live pretty much an unconscious life. And it doesn't sound too far-fetched, because how often have you got into your car, arrived at the destination and not remembered the journey?
Mm.
Yeah. So,
I've walked many a place, especially before driving, you'd walk many a place and then you think, I don't remember walking home.
your unconscious mind really does look after you. That's one of its highest jobs, is actually to look after you.
Yeah.
I'll quickly do a tangent as I said that. So the highest job, bar none, is for your unconscious mind to protect you. And you know that's true, because if you've ever stepped out into a road and pulled yourself back and the car's gone whoosh, that was your unconscious mind tracking that information around you.
Mm.
So you can't even move your fingers consciously. You consciously make a decision to move your fingers, and if you were to move them consciously, there's 159 muscles between your shoulder and your fingers, and you'd have to know how each of them worked and how they interacted. So you'd go, I need to contract this muscle, contract this one, relax this one, contract this one, contract this one. About 15 minutes later, you would move your fingers and you go, oh yes.
So is it almost like, because I know when people are concentrating, they do different things and they don't even realise it.
That's it.
So like my father, for example, he goes like this and he doesn't even realise he's doing it, or he'll go like that. And like some people, like I know, keep their mouth open and stuff like that, and it's just that unconsciousness of doing things.
Yes. So a lot of what we do is actually an unconscious level. So a lot of the reactions we have to people, when especially if we get a kind of a response we didn't expect, as in the Facebook post, we wonder where that came from, and that's because it's been processed at an unconscious level. So a lot of what's going on happens at an unconscious level. So the more we understand ourselves at multiple levels, we know a lot about ourselves consciously, and we live in a society that worships the conscious mind, and we're told to focus and concentrate all the time, and it's exhausting.
Yes, I agree.
Whereas, when you're struggling for a bit of information, somebody's name, it's on the tip of your tongue, you consciously try and look at it and you can't do it. As soon as you relax, you're in the shower, walking a dog, then suddenly you go, oh, there it is.
Yes.
You gave space to your unconscious mind to present you with the information.
Okay. Yeah. I like this.
So let's have a look at a principle. I mean, there's loads of different principles, but this one I think is great for communication with self and others. And it's the principle that your unconscious mind does not process negative statements. And what I mean by that is not negative thoughts, because we all know we can have negative thoughts. Mm. It's all about how we represent information to each other, to ourselves and to each other. So we're going to do a quick thought experiment. Now, you may have come across this before, but let's do a quick thought experiment. Right. Whatever you do, do not think of a blue elephant up a pink tree. That's a blue elephant up a pink tree. Do not think about it. Blue elephant, pink tree, not think about it. What are you doing?
You immediately picture a blue elephant up a pink tree. You just can't help it.
And even if you think you didn't, you did. So how can I say that with such confidence? Because words are secondary to how we think. Mm-hmm. We think using our imagination. And I'm using the word imagination very precisely because I didn't just say visualization. Imagination implies all the senses. Okay. Words are secondary to that. So when you say, do not think of a blue elephant up a pink tree, the brain goes, well, I don't know what I do not need to think about. So it has to park those words do not over to one side, thinks about a blue elephant up a pink tree, and it's too late. You've already done it. Now, as soon as you understand that, you understand the fundamental process of all influencing techniques, all communication techniques, whether it's going to be a successful communication or not. Mm-hmm. And it's this: ask for what you want to happen, not what you don't want to happen.
Okay.
So whenever you communicate, we are creating images in somebody's mind. Yeah. And your brain will follow the strongest image. So always ask what you want to happen.
I like this. Yes, I'm learning something. I learn, as they say, you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
And this is going to be just as helpful for me as it is for the members.
So from a communication point of view, if somebody's giving you a negative statement and you feel kind of demoralized over it, you're going to represent that situation to yourself in a certain way. You're going to use words that trigger internal images that cause you to feel a response. And it can be a negative loop's now formed.
Yeah.
So when somebody says, well, you don't know what's going on in that customer's life at that moment, you don't know what they're going through. And if you gave them the benefit of the doubt that maybe they were letting off a bit of steam to you, and it's not necessarily true or not, but if you believe that, it doesn't affect your own motivation, because you're going, that person must have been going through something. I wonder how I can support them. Or
Stop
maybe
focusing on like yourself so much with it.
yes, and it's essentially, it doesn't have to be true. It just has to create an image in your mind where you either give the person space, and it could be as simple as, oh, maybe they're not the right client for me.
Yeah.
But even if they are, if you think of them as like, I wonder what they're going through. I wonder if there's anything I can do to help. Maybe they just needed to vent.
And actually, because it's a Friday night, 8:15, you could just say that they've probably had a very long week, especially at the minute with kind of kids now. I know Paula's children are off school because it was their last week this week, so they've been back like 6 weeks and then they're home again. So it's so maybe they've had a really long week. It's not necessarily because of you.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Now, the other thing that you talked about was, so I'm going to slightly change gears now, but it's still processing at an unconscious level, was motivation.
Yes.
So let's explore where true motivation comes from, and then what could possibly happen in our own minds that have a response that we don't like, maybe. So you've probably heard the terms values and beliefs.
Yes.
And what I often find interesting about it is values and beliefs are said as though they're one word.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between the two. So let's make a distinction between what a value is and a belief is, and how it may affect us, especially in our working day. So values are the things that motivate you. The reason you get out of bed and do what you do is because of your values. Values are abstract terms. So true values are things like happiness, purpose, fulfillment, work, service, customer service. Notice a lot of those words some are more abstract than others.
Yeah.
The more abstract it is, the higher level value it is. So like, we would call those an end value. So happiness would be an end value. But happiness means something different to each of us. So even if we said at work, my top value is happiness, and I asked you for your definition what happiness at work meant, and I gave you my definition, they'd be very different.
Definitely.
So that's what I mean by an abstract term. So values, which are the motivator, and we noticed the comment you made was they felt demotivated.
Yes, they were wondering how this week they can obviously they felt frustrated on Friday, and it's kind of dragged on and changing that cycle.
Yes, and that means a value which will defend to the end has been affected, and hence the feeling response to that situation. There's a value of looking after the customer, doing a good job, and those values seem to have been in question.
Yes.
All right. So that as soon as we know that, what we can then start to do is go, okay, then, so I still have that value? Just maybe this person hasn't recognized it at the moment. Maybe there's another way I could demonstrate it. But this is where beliefs come in. So values are the things that motivate us. Beliefs are the rules we have so that our values are fulfilled.
Okay, yeah.
So beliefs tend to be rule-based rather than abstract. So this means that. So for example, let's say we got a value of work. It's an abstract term. Work means different things to different people. So how do you know that value is being fulfilled? right? For one person, it could be time-based. So one person says, I need to work 12 hours a day, and that's a rule.
Yeah.
And that's how I know the value of work is being fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else will have a similar rule in place, I believe, around time, but they say, I have to work 4 hours a day to know my value of work is being fulfilled. So who's right?
Both of them, because it's different for everyone.
It is, isn't it? So this is what happens is we've set up a set of rules. So rules seem to cluster around values. Values tend to work in systems. So a rule has been violated. A belief has been violated in that the way that I serve my customer has not been recognized. And we set up all sorts of strange rules in place.
And again, I would say that a lot of these rules you don't actively think about. Do you know what I mean? It's not your conscious, it is your unconscious. That for me, it's like making sure that our members are happy, and that comes with its own set of rules that not in a way that I don't particularly set the framework for, if that makes sense, but they're just unconscious.
Yes. And again, that's that unconscious processing again. So our values drive behavior, which is motivation, beliefs are how we do that.
Yes.
So especially when you're starting to set up boundaries, you have a belief that people can't and shouldn't contact me during these times. There's going to be, so you work on that belief, and then somebody comes up against it and tests that belief, and you go, I'm not really sure what's going on there.
Yeah, so it's almost like, in a way, either when it's been tested, and this is just in my head, so maybe I say something and then you go yes or no, he's then got to go, well, either I've got to help them understand why I have this belief and this unwritten rule, or do I need to review my unwritten rules? That makes sense.
Yes. So what we've got is two beliefs coming up against each other. One belief is the customer sort of saying, I should be able to contact you because I'm paying you, so you need to talk to me whenever I want to talk to you. Yeah. And the other person is that I need to have boundaries. I need to have balance of work life. I want to spend time with my family. Now, the challenge of that is that each party is looking at each other and going, how can you act like that? So to put it a different way, if I said to you, Charlotte, what's your favorite food?
Yeah.
Curry. And if I said to you, no, it's not. Now, I look like an idiot. Because Charlotte is Queen of Charlotte World. And whatever the Queen of Charlotte World declares is the favorite food is the favorite food. But as soon as I challenge and say, no, it's not, I look like an idiot. And that's one of the challenges, is when you go against somebody's belief or even try to challenge their belief, then you look like an idiot. Right? So it's not saying that you have to challenge or not challenge. It's how you choose to respond to that. So is it important to be aware of your own belief patterns? And I think it is, because when you're coming up against them. And so what is it demotivated? There's a value affected. So there's some rules around those values that have not been fulfilled. So one way to react to that is that I kept to my values. I care about my family. I care about my own boundaries. I kept to that, and you'll become stronger because of that.
Yeah.
If you wanted to help understand the other person, and this is not necessarily a technique for this situation, but beliefs have and connect our internal world to our external world. So I feel like I'm rambling now, but so please.
No, I'm just listening because I'm loving it. I'm like learning, and I'm just trying to soak it all in.
Okay, so we talked about beliefs and how they affect us. So let's have a look at the structure of a belief. There are various structures, but the most common one is what I call a cause and effect belief. Okay, so let me put it this way. So if I said to you, she doesn't love me, you might go, yeah, so what? Get over it. But what I've given you is half of a belief.
Yeah.
And if you said to me, because, and I say, she doesn't bring me flowers anymore, what we've now got is a structure of a belief.
Mm-hmm.
So if I said to you, she doesn't love me, is that an internal representation, so my internal thinking, or is it an external behavior? What do you think?
Internal?
It is, because it's all internal, isn't it? So
Yeah.
she doesn't bring me flowers anymore. Is that external behavior or an internal representation?
It's external, but
That's
your version of like them loving you, if that makes sense.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And what we now got is this idea of going, our beliefs connect our internal world to our external world.
Mm.
So the way that I know that I'm loved is you need to bring me flowers. And if that doesn't happen, and it's ludicrous because it doesn't necessarily mean that, they might go, well, doesn't the fact that I hold your hand and whisper you speak nothing means I love you? No, it's the flower thing.
But is that then not the point? It's kind of about communication, about saying that for me, it's for the flowers.
Yes, and that's right, and that's and that's why the customer got upset, because their belief of how the internal world and external reaction should have been fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah.
So, and I think as we start to understand this, we can be a bit more forgiving to other people, and so go, well, that is their stuff. It's what they're going through. Now, then the next thing is, do you want the work? Do you want to take the time? And it could be as simple as asking, talking to the person. It's all communication. But what's gone on there is an unconscious process has created a feeling of demotivation, where in fact, it was your values being not attacked, but not being fulfilled that upset you, not the other person.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of information to throw at you.
No, I love it. And it's just, I think it's going to help so many people, because I think in the landscaping industry in particular, I think a lot of them experience it, where clients come to them and they have experiences like this, and they do work so incredibly hard, 12-hour days, and then they go, they quote in the evenings and they talk to customers, and that's because of the nature of the job. But also some of them have struggled because they do need to set that for themselves and stick to it. Because I think some clients are a bit unforgiving and don't really understand that they have been on site all day and they have been working, and that they do want to help them, but it's just, it's 8:15 on a Friday night.
Yes.
But again, it is that communication and saying, look, I really understand. For me, etc., and building that communication and deciding from there. And if, as you say, it's then up to them. I'm guessing it'd be then up to the customer to decide if they're going to, accept that, or they're just going to still argue over it and ultimately go elsewhere.
Yes. Yes, and I sometimes have a belief that sometimes saying no to somebody makes you a much stronger business person.
Yes.
Because, like you say, there's a lot within landscaping. There's a lot of work that goes in that's not seen or even appreciated from the customer's point of view, because they'll sort of say, "Oh, you've just put a flower bed in, or you've just done that." And they go, "Well, do you know how much work went into that area?" And it's totally unrecognized.
And just the project management in general, particularly when there's paving and teams and multiple teams, and just the project management and the getting the deliveries on time and the quoting and trying to get jobs booked in, and the staff and the management, and that comes all through owning your own business. And people, particularly that don't have their own businesses, as a client of a landscaping company, they're not necessarily going to understand that, because I know that Paula, with her landscaping business, some of her best customers are ones that do own their own businesses, because they fully understand. Yes. They might not be able to get back to them there and then, but they're going to try their very best to get back to them within a very reasonable amount of time.
Yes.
And I think I feel like it's being forgiving to yourself and appreciating that, I don't always have to be working at 9-10 o'clock at night speaking to customers and doing stuff like that. You know, I can set these boundaries, and it doesn't mean that my company's going to go under, because that's kind of a fear thing.
Yes.
And I'm going to lose loads of clients. It's the same. We've been talking to them a lot about charging for consultations and paying for their time. And the thing is you will have people that will then turn around and say, no, I'm not interested, actually. But saying no to them and valuing your time, it's the same kind of principle.
It is. And there is actually a business case to say, run your business by your values that you choose to run your business by.
Mm.
And so there's a book by Jim Collins called Good to Great. Have you read that one?
No.
Oh, it's a fabulous book. It's an absolutely great book, and it's a well-researched book. They had a team of 30 researchers working on this book. Okay. And they were looking at why do some companies stay good and some become great?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And one of the things they thought, well, can we actually measure that? And what they meant by that is a company that was great lived by their values. Whether you or I agreed with those values didn't matter, but did they themselves as a company stand by their values, which meant sometimes they lost work, but they kept to their values. And they were looking at sort of kind of companies like Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and some big companies, and IBM, M3, I think, is it 3M or M3?
Remember.
Yeah, they do the Post-it notes. So,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they actually used to be a mining company, and they had to pivot.
Me. That's a transition and a half.
Yeah. So they were looking at if one of these companies, whether you agreed with their values or not, didn't matter, but did they keep to their own values? Could you track? Did it make them a great company, a profitable company? Okay, so they tracked it from shares and stocks, etc., from 1926 up to 1995. I think that's when the book came out. So in between that time. So if you invested $1 in an average company, a company that just took any work, didn't really care, well, they were okay, but they weren't great. They were just an average company, and you invested that $1, over that period of time, you had a return of something like $365 from $1. Now, if you invested it in a good company, a company that was good, they cared about the customer, they did what they could for the customer, and they invested that same $1 in that period of time, the return on it was $936,000. So $936, so not thousands. Right. Now, if you invest it in a company that lived by its values, just like we've been talking about, that same return on that $1 was $6,335.
Blimey.
So when we talk about abstract terms like, do values and beliefs really matter to your business from a monetary point of view? And should I stick to my own boundaries, etc.? And do I live what I talk about? Yes, there's research that shows your values have a huge impact on your company.
Definitely. And I think that's something that we kind of in a way talk about, but not so much in the way you've put it. And I think that's going to really help lots of our members, because I think there is this fear as well of it isn't going to be successful. That, you know, if I charge for a consultation, if I say no to this client, then it's the beginning of the end, if that makes sense. Like it's all going to go downhill, and it's understanding that it's going to be okay. If you stick to your values, it's going to be more than okay. And actually, and I think we've spoken about it in a way in previous podcasts, and we have been talking about charging for consultations, and Paula's been saying that actually she's the happiest she's ever been in her business, because, and her husband Mike isn't now running around all day every day. Yes, there's less consultations, but they're more quality. Yes. And they're most likely to convert into a customer, whereas before they weren't. And I think the same principle applies to what this member was asking, is that you can talk to them, you can communicate with them and see what they say, but at the end of the day, it's also the thing of is it gonna make, yeah, your values, is it gonna make you happy? Is that part of your values? Is that part of everything you've just discussed?
Fabulous. So hopefully
Awesome.
that was helpful.
Definitely very helpful, and thank you for joining us and helping us with that. I know that everyone is going to really enjoy this episode. I'm really excited about this episode. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us.
A real pleasure, real pleasure.